So let me introduce myself. My name is Marv, and I'm a trauma coach. I specialize in narcissistic abuse recovery, and I work with hundreds and hundreds of people who are coming out of highly controlling or toxic relationships. Hi, Blanca. Welcome. Nice to have you on board. So when you signed up, we said we'd talk about these 5 questions. So let's start with the first one. Why do I still miss him or her, even after everything he has done to me? So there's 4 things going on here. The first is something called a trauma bond. And a trauma bond is an emotional attachment that you have to somebody who's abusing you. And it forms frequently prior to the relationship that you're currently in. So this didn't necessarily happen to you as a child, but if you think about a child, when a child is in an uncertain or an unsafe environment, they go into this protective mode or survival mode that we think of frequently as fight, flight, freeze, or sometimes fawn being people-pleasing. Kids can't fight back. They can't usually run away. They can't get away. And so they go into freeze mode or they go into fawn mode. Fawn mode is pleasing. The idea behind if I'm good enough or if I'm better, they'll treat me nicer. They'll like me more. And that's a pattern that eventually, for people who are highly sensitive, especially, will tend to perpetuate throughout their life as a strategy for survival. Now, uncertainty is what happens when you're in this relationship. You don't know what's going to happen. You kind of wake up and you wonder if I'm going to be with partner A or partner B. Sometimes they love you, they hate you, they want you, they don't want you, they're good, they're bad, you're good, you're bad. That uncertainty kind of puts you on eggshells, hyper-vigilant awareness. That triggers certain hormones in your body. On the one hand, you get cortisol and adrenaline. That's your fight response or flight. And then you get dopamine when they're nice to you. What happens over time is you become expectant of those hormones, and that can create kind of an addictive component to your relationship because you're wanting those hormones or that stimulation. Codependency happens when people are highly sensitive and compassionate and empathetic. And that's why you were probably sought out by the narcissist. That's who they look for. And the problem for you, probably in part, is that part of your identity is I help people. I like to help people. I feel good when I help people. Separating from the person who needs it the most or acts like they need it the most is hard. That challenges your sense of self-worth. The last part is grief. The person you fell in love with originally is no longer there or never was actually, but you still miss them just as though they had died. And all the hopes and dreams and future you'd imagined together with that person, which seemed so perfect, also dies. And that is a true and real loss. So how do I stop obsessing over what went wrong? So what happens is you would never in a million years treat anybody the way you have been treated. And so your body is thinking something went wrong here because this does not make sense. And so you're going to review and reimagine and rehearse all of the things that happened to try and figure out what went wrong. And you're also going to want to talk to the narc and get closure. And they won't do it. They don't care. And part of the problem is that to do that, they would have to take some level of accountability, and they don't think they've done anything wrong. Or if they do think something went wrong, they think it's your fault or someone else's fault or some circumstantial part. So that's one of the things you have to recognize. There is not going to be closure about what happened. We talked a little bit before about the survival mode. When you're trying to make sense of this, it triggers more of the same survival response. And so the more you think about how do I solve this, what went wrong, the more you go back into this survival mode behavior and the triggering of all of those hormones again. And so compounding it. So it's important to realize that trauma lives mostly in your body. It's a nervous system issue. The cognitive part where you think about it, yeah, that's true, that's important, and that's helpful. And that's probably what got you here. You figured out, yeah, I need this. This shouldn't go be happening. I got to get out of this. But there's a part inside of you, I'll call it your heart, that still says, well, maybe there's a chance. And maybe if I was good enough, maybe if I loved him more or loved her more, things would work out. This is something that happens on a somatic or in your body basis, and that's where we have to work on it. So although it's helpful to talk to people about what happened and to get all this information about what trauma is and what narcissism is, that doesn't solve the trauma bond. Okay. At some point in most of these relationships, the narcissist figures out that you think that they're a narcissist. And what they're going to do is project that. That means that they will call you the narcissist. So because they're such great liars and so compelling, and because they're so repetitive, you may actually get to be thinking, oh, maybe I am the narcissist. So here's how you can tell if you're the narcissist. A narcissist is driven by the need for approval, admiration, validation. But here's the difference between them and you, because you probably want those things too. They will lie, cheat, and steal to get it, and you won't. A malignant narcissist, this is somebody who will hurt you on purpose to get gain for themselves. Is even a step further. You would never hurt anyone else to benefit yourself. Now, you might hurt yourself to help someone else, but you would never hurt anyone else. A malignant narcissist will use calculated cruelty to maintain control over you. They'll have false charges filed against you with the police. They'll claim all kinds of things in order to maintain control. You would never do that in a million years. So if you're still wondering about if you're the narcissist, you're not the narcissist. All right, how long does it take to get out of this mess? So the first part is, if you're still living with the person, you got to break up. And although there are situations where you want to continue living with them and learn how to manage that, and I do coach on that, that's not what I'm talking about here. For most people, they want to get out of this, and so they need to go no contact. That's kind of the gold standard. And for most people, breakups happen multiple times because they're getting something from you that they want. It's either approval, housing, money, sex, whatever it is. They don't care if you have a relationship or not. They still want all those things. And so even if you break up, or if they want to break up, they'll come back over and over and over again and be really compelling. They know exactly what to tell you for you to think, oh, he's changed, or oh, she's changed. When they've really just done what they need to in order to get what they were looking for. And then they go right back to it. So after you've left the relationship, now we're talking about how do you break this trauma bond. If you're trying to break the trauma bond by yourself, it can take years. It's a very particular kind of trauma. It's a kind of PTSD. And unless you've just got a long, long horizon and you can wait it out, you need help to do it. All right. So I'm often asked, can I fix this on my own? And we've kind of covered that, but here's the most important part. These narcissists don't change. Now, obviously, there's a big spectrum on which they occur. And on the far end, a true diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder is the extreme. But you've got everything all the way down to somebody who just figured out that they can take advantage of you and keeps doing it over and over again, but maybe aren't a true narcissistic personality. They still don't want to change. Once they're getting something for free, so to speak, they begin to believe that they're the best. They deserve it. And so you can't fix them. They don't want to change. Now, can we fix you? Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that right now. So the U.S. Veterans Administration has approved emotional freedom techniques as a safe and effective counter-conditioning method for treating PTSD, depression, anxiety, and pain for soldiers. This is the same methodology that we use to treat complex PTSD, which is what most people coming out of a narcissistic relation have. Essentially the same thing, comes from a different source. And I call it the Trauma Bond Detox. Okay, so I'm going to give you a demonstration of this if you've got a few minutes. So I'm going to walk you through an imaginary experience. So our goal in this trauma bond detox is indifference. So most traumas, the kind that we're talking about, have a trigger and then a flooding response. So if you think about a soldier, a car backfire, it's a loud noise. He automatically goes back to thinking that he's in war, and he has that sort of reflex emotionally of being shot out or whatever it is. Our goal is to separate that trigger, whatever it is, from the emotional response. And what we do with that is we create indifference. Now, in this case, we're not worried about what we're worrying about your narc. And so we're going to help you achieve indifference about the narc so you can be with him or her whenever, wherever, or feel good about letting go of them and just not care. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a cruel, heartless person, but it gives you a lot of flexibility. Because there are lots of things that you're feeling, I'm going to just focus on the one that I know everybody has, which is anxiety. I want you to think of a recent experience with your narc where you experienced anxiety. And I'm looking for something that you can describe in one sentence, not a whole long narrative. Let's say, for example, I went into a restaurant with my partner. She's a narc, and something upset her, who knows what. And so she started being abusive to the wait staff. And when I tried to defend the wait staff, she turned it on me and started yelling and screaming and made a big scene. I felt that right here in my chest. That's where I feel anxiety. And on a level of 0 to 10, it was intense for me. So it was probably an 8 out of 10. So when you think about your experience, notice where in your body you feel it, and then rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. The reason for rating is so that when we're finished with this, you can compare the before and after and see if anything happened. Any questions about this? Okay, here's how we tap. I'm going to have you tap on these parts of your body that are stimulating your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is the part that runs from your brain down into all of your organs and other parts of your body, and it helps your body either go into survival mode or into rest mode. Very simply, what we're going to do is hold the thought, the trigger thought, at the same time as we stimulate this vagus nerve. And what it does is it desensitizes it so that it doesn't have that emotional response. And we're going to access that nerve by tapping on the same places that we'd use if you were doing acupuncture. We're going to apply pressure on those pressure points by tapping. Here are the places that I'm going to have you tap. Side of your hand, right here, kind of, we call it the karate chop point. Between your eyebrows, it's kind of the third eye point. Side of the eye goes back into the temple. Under your eye, where the bone turns. Under your nose, on your lip, on your chin, and on your collarbones. If you feel your collarbones and go beneath them, you'll notice somewhere there's a tender spot or a soft spot. We're going to tap there. Then under your arm, 4 fingers down, and then on top of your head where you had a soft spot as a baby. So I'm going to make some statements I want you to repeat along with me. Now, I need you to repeat this out loud. If you're self-conscious about having other people hear you, you're welcome to put yourself on mute. But the reason we do it out loud is because your logical brain and your emotional brain don't talk to each other very well. And so you write things down for them or you speak them out loud for them in order to synchronize them. So here we go. Begin tapping on the side of your hand and repeat after me. Even though this part of me still feels anxious about that experience.
Even though this part of me still feels anxious about that experience.
Right here and right now, I'm safe.
Right here and right now, I am safe.
Even though it feels like I'm walking on eggshells.
Even though it feels like I'm walking on eggshells, I'm open to feeling it differently now.
Even though I feel angry and betrayed.
Even though I feel angry and betrayed.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Now, between your eyebrow, this anxiety in my body.
This anxiety in my body.
Side of the eye. This walking on eggshells anxiety.
This walking on eggshells.
Under your eye, this feeling of anger and betrayal.
This feeling of anger and betrayal.
Under your nose, I'm so tired of making excuses for them.
I'm so tired of making excuses for them.
A part of me knows I need to let go now.
A part of me knows I need to let go now.
Collarbone. Even though I feel this anxiety in my body.
But not filled with anxiety in my body.
Right here and right now, I know I'm safe.
Right here, right now, I know I'm safe.
Under your arm, I give myself permission to heal from this abuse.
I give myself permission to heal from this abuse.
Top of the head, I'm resetting and restoring my nervous system
I'm resetting and restoring my nervous system
back to normal.
back to normal.
Okay, shake it off, take a deep breath. Now notice that place in your body where you felt the anxiety and notice how you calibrated it beforehand and see if there's a difference. Did it go up or down or stay the same?
I don't know, probably stay the same right now.
Stay the same. It sounds like you've got an intense one.
I do.
Okay. So now I want you to just notice after doing this, what fears or beliefs may be standing in the way. So sometimes it doesn't go down on the first round. Sometimes we are going to think of something that's a little bit different, or we're going to act twice more. Eventually, they all come down. But I want you to think about these as possible barriers to having them come down right now, or just other things that you'd really like to change in your life. One, if I leave, I may be alone forever. It's a very common fear. Maybe this was the best I'll ever get. What if I never feel that alive again? What if I walk away and they suddenly become everything I ever wanted for somebody else? And maybe this really is my fault. And those are the things, the kinds of things that we resolve and release doing the Trauma Bond Detox. So if you find that you'd like more information about this, or you'd like just to talk about it, I offer a free 20-minute one-on-one clarity call. Be happy to visit with you, hear your story, what you're going through, and talk about the pattern that you're in. So what happens, and this kind of goes back to when you're talking about when kids start this pattern. It may not have started as a child, but somewhere in your life, you started a pattern where it became normal or felt normal to be in this kind of a relationship. And that's the pattern that we need to change. Okay, let's talk about money. So most people can get clarity and strong release in just 3 sessions. So this isn't something where you have to go for a year and a half, or weekly, or every couple of weeks. This goes really fast. We're treating this as though it's an addiction, and it goes really fast. So a 3-session bundle is $500. If that's too much, I can spread it out over 6 months at $100 a month. Now, for some people, that's just not possible. And so they still want help. And what I recommend is, let's just try 1 session. Got a money back guarantee. Doesn't work for you, I'll give you your money back. 1 session is $200. And if that's still too much, we can put that on a monthly payment of $40 a month for 6 months. They're all an hour, and we do it by Zoom. And at some point, if you decide you'd like a little help getting out of this, I'd love to visit with you.